Well, good morning, everyone. Popping in for our usual Friday live Sony news rumours chat. Excited today. There's stacks to talk about with you guys. We've got, look, I'm going to give it about 4 minutes or so for everyone to know that we're on live. So fire away your chat. And just having a normal coffee this morning. It's only 11 degrees Celsius this morning, so it's quite cool. So I'll just see who's here. Ah, that's good. Now, if anyone's coming in late, I will have a timeline down below, so you can follow that if you don't want to sort of go through the whole show, because these shows are always long. So if you want to skip to a particular story, just follow that timeline that we'll have down below. Let me just make sure that's all up and running, which it is. So that's all right to go now. So let me see who's here anyway. So Hero's here. He's just saying, oh man, new lens to buy. Hope it's a Sony 105 1.4. Well, we're going to talk about those lenses in a minute, what I think they'll be. Hero. AL3 says, hope it's a 200 to 600. That's affordable. Interesting. Brett said, good morning from sunny Queensland. I said, it's cold here, Brett. Casper's here as well. G'day, Casper. Hero said 200 to 600 would be nice too, hopefully not too crazy heavy. The Sigma 150 to 600 has my shoulder still hurting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that lens out eventually. Joe says, morning Mel. David, where you from? He's from, Joe's from Lilydale. I just said I'm from Backer Smash. Andre is saying it's 3 a.m. You're keen, Andre. Manuel says, hey everyone. Alex said, caught you live, busy wedding editing. Yeah, that's what I'll be doing later today as well. Mike said, howdy from Boulder, Colorado. G'day, Mike. Sammy Photography said, hope it's a 200 to 600 as well. Kevin says, hello, David and everyone else. Darktron says, hello, David. Julian says, hey, Dave. Alex Buckland says, have you shot with the 24 yet? No, I've only played around with it last night. Oh, I love it. Really love it. So I've just been playing around with it. I'll try if I can over the weekend. I'm not sure how much I'll get done though, but I'm so looking forward to using this in a shoot in the coming days, and particularly using it on my gimbal. So I can't wait. But I was very, very impressed with the close focusing though of it. It looks like it's going to be a great lens to be doing wedding details and things like that. I'll talk about that when we start the show in a second. Aldrich saying hello. Langston saying evening all. Good evening. It's raining in New Jersey. Ed said hi David from Suffolk, England. Hi Ed. Greetings. Hoping for some 400mm plus for wildlife that doesn't require mortgage or weight training. I love it. Aldrich said hit that like button. Thank you, Aldrich. Eric said it's sunset here in Princeton, New Jersey. Down at the lake doing a time lapse. Interesting. Prasantas, I think it is. What's your thoughts on the Samyang 50 1.4? Well, I haven't used it, so I can't comment about what I think about that lens yet. I won't really comment on them unless I've actually used them. Often I'll use them in the camera store, for a while, play around with them so I have an idea about how they work, but I haven't even tried that one yet, so I can't comment on that one. Darktron says, I'm killing time to the Toronto Raptors game. What's that? Is that ice hockey or something? Or Julian says that's the 24. Oh man, love it. Sammy Photography, not sure why your wife is standing behind you with a rolling pin. I told her last night. I got the eye roll. Oh well. Michael said, Nivak said, jealous, all clouded over here in Philadelphia and the storms this evening. Michael says, I thought you were going to pat that lens then. Philip says, I think you have Sony gas, maybe. Robin says, here from California, heat wave, 100 degrees all week. I'm missing the heat already. It won't take long though, and we'll be heating up again. Look, our winters are very mild, but I still whinge about them. And ND, I'm not sure what that means, Julian says. So let me start on here, because we're going to start. I think we'll start because I've got so much to cover today. So I think we'll start, we're on 51, so I'll wait till it's 5 minutes, and then I'm going to bring up the Osler Images logo, and we'll start the show. that have just popped in because I've got quite a few stories to talk about today. Julian said that 24, love it, man. Yeah, I think I'm going to love it as well. Not sure why your wife is standing behind you with a rolling pin. I laughed at that, about that. Where were we down to? It's basketball, is it? Okay. Altric said I'm from Newark, New Jersey. He's talking to someone else. Mick says, good morning, David. Julian says, laugh out loud, the National Basketball Association. Yeah, well, we've got different sport here, Julian. We're into Australian rules football, and rugby, basically, and cricket are our major sports out here. Philip said that was the Sony gear acquisition syndrome. All these Jersey boys tonight. Nothing hurts more than the eye roll. Yep, I got the eye roll last night when I told Kerry about the lens. Gene said, I have the Rockion 51.4. It's pretty decent. Someone asked about that lens. Need to make sure you have the latest firmware and get the USB base station. I have images on my Instagram from Kane Harley's dinner set. Okay, cool. Let's have a look. Brett said live video. Oh, is live video stopped? I think it's still going, Brett, isn't it? No, it should be still going, Brett. Back, laugh out loud. Oh, that was just because I put that thing up, I think. Hero says, I think Kerry wonked him and dragged him to the basement. Will you be buying a Lenny Kravitz Leica M monochrome drifter? They are only $33,000. I don't think so. All right, guys, let's get started on the story. Let me put down here what's going on. The first one, we're going to talk about Sony slashing prices. So that's 9:30. Oops, where are we? 9:35. So let me go over to here. Now, this is really interesting because I saw this morning on Petapixel, and it's saying the story is actually Sony just slashed its mirrorless camera prices by up to $1,000. And I know there's been prices going on for a fair while, but some of these are, pretty good prices if you've been thinking about getting some of these cameras. Like the A9, these are US prices at the moment. The A9 is 22% off, so it's still got that $1,000 discount. And at that price, at $3,400, I know that's a lot of money, but at that price, if you compare that camera to the competition, like if you compare that to, say, what Canon have to offer, if you compare it to what Nikon have to offer for their high-end cameras, the Sony A9 is an absolute steal at $3,498. It beats anything else that's out there. So trust me when I say that I've been using the A9 now since I got it on day one of release, and it still is my favorite camera. And even if Sony brought out an A9 too, that is by far the best camera I have ever used. And at that price, I honestly, if you're thinking about getting it, I'd be getting that before I got the A7 III, for instance. So it really is an amazing bargain for that price. So that's $1,000 off. The Sony A7 III is $600 off, so it's 19%, and it's $2,598 if you wanted to buy that one. Again, you'd go for this camera if you want, say, more into landscape, more into architecture, more into shooting in studio where you want to be doing high-end retouching. That's where the A7R comes into its own. Anything where you need high resolution. Again, a really nice price at that price. The A7R III is ridiculously priced, really, for what you're getting. You can buy the A7R III, the A7R2, for $1,498. That's what I'm using right now to film this with the 35 1.4 on there. That is a great price if you want basically the same image quality as an A7R III. The only real difference that you're getting there is that you're not getting the autofocus like what you're getting with the A7R III. But the sensor is basically the same. They might have tweaked it a little bit, but the sensor overall is just the same. So if you do want to save a fair bit of money and you just say shooting landscape, stuff like that, or doing studio work, the A7R III is a steal, I think, at that price. A7S2 is down to $1,998, which again is not a bad price. I would be waiting there though, because there is going to be, there will be a new version of that camera coming out sometime this year, so I probably would wait. for that one, and there will be massive improvements coming out from the A7 III. Now, isn't the A7 III on sale? Doesn't look like it. I'm just looking. So it looks like the A7 III hasn't got a discount. No, it's only the A9. It's only the A7R3. The A7R2, which I love. Like I said, I've got that. The A7S2 has got that discount of $400 off. And the A7 II is now $898. Yeah, I personally wouldn't get that though. I would buy something like an A6400 before I bought an A7 II. I think the A7 II now is just going, it just lacks a lot of technology, and it lacks a lot of the focusing features and things like that. So I think if I was borderline on that's all I could spend, I'd be buying an A6400 before I bought that camera. But overall, some great deals out there. There is some lens deals as well if you wanted to get the A7 II and the 28-70. I don't recommend getting that lens though. I had that and I didn't like it. I sold it. I think you're better off to buy a body and get a decent prime for that sort of money that you're going to be adding there with the kit. So anyway, it looks like there's some really good specials on. I think the real big seller there, or the really big one that I would get out of this, is the Sony A9 at that $1,000 off. Get it while you can. These last until June the 22nd, so there's a fair while before they stop, but fantastic. Really, really good, and I really like it. Now, I'm not going to go to questions yet. I'm going to go to the next story. So let me put 14, 20, 30. All right, so next story that I want to show you guys is this one. Now, this is a really interesting one because I've noticed there's rumours coming out about the SH1, and I'll talk about the specs on that as well, but it really means that Sony is going to have to start to think about, let me just show Gilbert's thing there. Sony is going to have to start thinking about soon releasing an A7S3. Due to the fact, look, photographic-wise, they're really up there with any camera that's out there at the moment, but they're certainly lacking if you look at it behind the specs, video specs that other cameras are coming out with. And particularly, there's rumours now of a GH6 coming out with potentially 6K. I think it was 4K 60p. And I think it was 120 if you went to an external recorder, and it was all 10-bit internal. So there's big, Panasonic are making really big moves. Obviously, we know we've got the Fuji X-T3 that is very good on video, that probably beats anything that Sony have got out at the moment. Even the Nikon Z6 beats Sony if you look at video aspects alone. I'm not talking about how it autofocus and things like that. I'm just talking about video quality. At the moment, Sony is lacking in a really good video camera when I'm talking about 4K 60, 10-bit, 422, etc. Well, it looks like, if you look at this that's coming out, the specs are pretty amazing. So Sony does definitely have to step up their game, because the rumours for this new Lumix that's meant to be coming out in the autumn, US, I would say, it's going to be announced May the 31st, actually, it says there. What's that, tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah, it's today here, but that's tomorrow. They're saying in here that it's going to be an L mount, obviously. It's a full frame sensor. It records 6K 24p and 4K 60p. It records 10-bit 422 internal and 30p and external 60p. That's at 10-bit, which is incredible. 10-bit is amazing if you're dealing with high-end editing, where videographers want to push their files. It's like the difference of shooting RAW to JPEG. That's the sort of difference that you get if you're confused about 10-bit versus what Sony have at the moment, which is 8-bit. They're saying cinematography dream gear, built like a tank, slightly bigger than the S1R. So it's a fairly big body, and it probably needs to be to allow for the heat and stuff that would be building up inside that camera. If you're dealing with 6K 24p and 10-bit internal, that camera's going to get pretty warm. So I understand why the body is reasonably large there. Slightly bigger, it says. Built-in log settings, a lot more expensive than the S1R. So it's going to be a very expensive camera. But having said that, it's clear now that Sony have to release something fairly soon. I mean, all these cameras keep being announced. Like I said, this one, you've got the Nikon that have upped their game through firmware with 10-bit and stuff like that have come out. The XH1, the XT3 has come out, which has amazing video. Sony are definitely lagging behind there. If you're talking about stills photography, they're still number one. But if you're dealing on the video side of things, they're definitely falling down and losing their top place. So they need to address this, and I'm hoping that they answer it fairly soon. I still think the A7000 probably is going to be announced soon, and then the A7S3 will be announced sometime late this year. And I'm still tipping that they may blow everything out of the ballpark and do something like a leaf shutter or something like that. It'll be interesting to see what they bring out. I mean, we just have to wait and see what sort of sensor comes out and what they're going to do. So let's wait and see what happens there. I think it's going to be exciting. Sony may be just waiting to see what happens with these cameras and what the competition announces. There's also rumors that Canon are announcing a high-end EOS R. That has to happen. If you look at what the lenses are that Canon have at the moment, they just don't match the body. The bodies are no way matching that amazing glass that Canon have brought out. So it's only a matter of time until Canon releases a high-end model. And there's rumors out there now that Canon are going to do that fairly soon. So, Sony do have some work to do. So it's going to be interesting. So let me just bring up the chat because I'm curious to see what you guys have to think about this. Let me see what people are saying. Where were we? Back here. Ben's in as well. G'day, Ben. Gilbert's here as well. G'day, Gilbert. James said, just came from the video unboxing of the Sigma 105. Mine comes next week. Oh, luckily, that's a great lens. I love that lens. I'm a wedding photographer shooting Sony and will now be using the Sigma 50 and 105. Do I sell the 70-200 or for the 35? Oh, it's a hard one to say. Look, I've still got my 70-200 f4. I'm going to keep it because sometimes you just need the reach. I wouldn't sell it personally. I still think you need that lens in your arsenal. So I wouldn't sell mine, but it's a hard decision if you're not using it. Only you would know if you're using that enough. I definitely wouldn't sell my 70-200 though. Aldrich says, I was born in Elizabeth. Oh, he's talking to someone else. Where's the first question? G'day, Michael. I want another A9, but need the A7S3. Yeah, me too, Michael. It's a hard one, isn't it? It also depends on how much they charge for an A7S3 too. This is the thing that I'm interested about because if the A7000 has everything I need, I might just get that because I don't do full-on videography. I just do it as a fusion type thing, which is a mix of stills and video. So if they brought out an A7000 that gives me everything I need, 4K 60, 10-bit, etc., even if it was external, I'd probably just be happy and buy that. If the A7S3 comes out and it's $7,000 like my A9 was when I bought it here, I might be a bit hesitant to get it because I don't know if I can justify that cost with the amount of video that I do. I may just go for the A7000. That's why I'm so curious about them releasing both of these cameras and what's going to be in each of them. I have to wait and see. And to be completely honest, I am completely happy with the A9 video and also the A7 III video. It's only the fact that I haven't got 4K 60, which I would like to use occasionally. If I had one camera that gave me that, I would be happy. Like if they brought out an A7000 that had that, I would be happy to have that. So I don't need to spend $7,000 on a new camera, and I don't think I probably would if the A7S III is priced around that range. I've got a feeling it's probably going to be priced around the A7R price when that was released, the A7R III. If it's around that price, I probably would get it. Unbox Reviews. G'day, Aaron. Good to see you in here. Unbox Text Review said, this makes the used market even better for these full-frame cameras. It does, actually. Brett said, at over 3K is far better than when it first came out. Yeah, I paid $7,000, I think it was around $7,500 for the A9, Brett, when I bought it. I've lost a lot of money, but I haven't regretted it one bit. Aaron's in Las Vegas. He's in Las Vegas, baby. Well, I hope you're coming out with all of us, Aaron. Otherwise, you're going to let the whole team down in February. Michael's saying legendary David O. Gilbert's saying it's similar prices in the UK. The A7 III is £1,649, including cashback. Let me know in the chat, guys, what's the current US price for the A7 III? I'm just curious to know. Michael said, Singa Expo Los Angeles, June the 1st to the 5th. You reckon that's when the A7 III is going to come out? Interesting. Stuart says, I might buy the A9 down the track. You wouldn't regret it one bit, Stuart. I love that. In some ways, I would love to go and get a second one. I really would. And sometimes I've just been about to get it, and then I change my mind. Hero says, the A7 II doesn't even focus as good as the A6000. Yeah, that's why I wouldn't get it. I had 2 of those cameras. I used to work with them and it was workable, but now that you see what the A7 III can do, the A6400, the A6500, I'd get an A6400 over an A7 III anytime. You can use the same lenses. Unbox Refuse says, my roadmap is to buy the A7S III and A7R 4, or maybe the A9 II, depends on the specs. I'm not still 100% certain there's going to be an A9 II yet. I really am not. Because the only reason why I'm starting to think this, I might be proven wrong, and I'll be happy to be proven wrong, but I've got a feeling that we may just get the lenses. Remember, Sony still haven't licensed that sensor to anyone else yet. There's still no camera available, mirrorless, that beats what the Sony A9 can do at this stage. So I don't think Sony are in any hurry to upgrade that camera because there's nothing can compete with it now. So that's the interesting thing. So don't be too convinced that there is going to be an A9 II. I don't think, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't one. I'd be more inclined to think they're going to release lenses for the Olympics, but let's wait and see. I would believe more that we're going to get an A7S III. Yes, that's needed, definitely. And potentially, we also should be getting, say, an A7R4 because of all these new high megapixel cameras that are coming out. Sony will probably need to address that as well. So we may get an A7R4 out later this year as well. But I'm not convinced we're going to get an A9 II. The only reason why I say that is because Sony are just basically releasing something that's not needed at this stage. In video, yes, they need an A7S III or something to compete with the video side of things. But what is out there that can beat the A9? You give me a camera that can beat the A9. There's nothing. So this is why I'm saying I don't believe that Sony will release an A9 II, but let's wait and see. Nivak said, for video cameras, Sony probably decided to wait and try leapfrogging the competition, but it is probably time or almost time for the A7S III. Yeah. I got my second, as Altric, I think. It's just jumped to the bottom. Hate it when it does that. Altric says, I got my second A9 on that 1,000 off. Yeah, and I don't blame you, Altric. I really don't. Lazarus said, hey, David, just curious, what type of gimbal setup do you use? Thanks, love your channel. Thank you so much. I've got 3 gimbals. I'll show you all of them. This is my new favorite. Let me just go to the other camera. This is my new favorite, which is the Air Cross. So this is the it's the Moza Air 2. I adore this for the fact that I love this quick release plate that's locked in. So once your camera is balanced, you can take it out and then just put it back in. You don't have to rebalance anything like you do with the other gimbals that I've used. I like how you can control your aperture, shutter speed, and ISO from the dial at the front here, and also charge up your camera. Love the way the batteries change through here as well, so you can quickly change them without putting the gimbal down. I can just stand it, take the cover off, and then replace the batteries. So that's one that I've got. The next one that I've got is this is the Air Cross. So this is my light sort of gimbal, mid gimbal I should say, because this is the Air Cross. I love this for if I want to run and gun and be fairly light, but still have enough power to be able to hold the A7 III or the A9 with a decent sized lens on there. So this is the Air Cross, and I've paid for all these, guys. I'm not sponsored by Moser. The last one that I'll show you is this one. Oops. That I've got, which is, this is the, I think this one is the, what is it, the Crane, this is the Crane M. I like this for, this is fantastic if you just want to put the A6500 on it. Because this is really tiny. I mean, this is the smallest of the lot of them. So if I want to, say, do vlogging and stuff like that and be really light with what I'm carrying, the Crane M is fantastic because it's so small. So they're the three that I use. But the Moser Air 2 is my favourite one by far. The Moser Air 2 is heavy. Don't get me wrong, it is a heavy gimbal, but boy is that thing stable. And no matter what you put on it, if it's unbalanced, just press start and it will balance it. It does something like, I think it's not, what is it, 4 pound, 4.5 pound or some ridiculous thing. Like, it's massive. You can put an FS7 on that thing. So that's what I use for that. So they're the gimbals that I use. Let's go back to questions. Michael said, David, question. Would you say Sony's 8-bit looks just as good as Panasonic 10-bit? No, I think the 10-bit was a little bit better, Michael. The problem was, when I used the Panasonic GH5, I did dabble a little bit with using 10-bit footage. The problem is it's so massive in file sizes and stuff like that, and I found it just not workable. So for me, personally, 10-bit is not a really big deal. I'd prefer 4K 60 and not be using 10-bit. Even if 10-bit comes out, I probably won't use it due to the fact that I usually try and expose correctly in camera, so I'm not pushing the exposure really that hard. Now, if you're using green screens, stuff like that, 10-bit makes a massive difference because it'll stop the blocking that's sort of around your, you know, your face and hair and stuff. Not that I've got any hair, but around your hair and all that sort of stuff. So with green screens, 10-bit makes a massive difference. I just didn't find it was enough for me. But if you're a videographer, 10-bit does make a big difference, yes. So I did find that the Panasonic 10-bit was definitely better than the Sony 8-bit, but not worth it for the file size. For me, I'm talking about, though, not if you're a videographer. Unboxed Reviews said, that means Sony A7S would have to have a bigger body for sure. Well, if they're going to really put some of this amazing technology in there, it might have to. Due to the heat that may be involved. But let's wait and see. I mean, the A6400 doesn't overheat anymore. It probably all depends on the processor and what voodoo they can do with that. You know, how cool can they make it run? As they start to sort of make these dies a lot smaller and run cooler for the processors, they can do some amazing things. So we don't know. It may not be bigger. MM Bro says, hi from Canada. Mike said, we all need thumbs up. Thanks, Mike. Brett says, wouldn't worry about the other video cameras competing over Sony. The A7S III will come out with features that will go further than you may think. And yeah, and Sony have said that all along, Brett, that they're going to beat the competition. And that may be, it probably is a really good sign that they're holding off, because they're probably making sure whatever they're going to do is just going to blow the competition out of the water. So it probably will be worth waiting for, I agree. Hero says Sony needs to put their cards on the table soon. It might be, though, that they possibly should at least announce what they're going to do, or, you know, potentially. Michael said, I understand the grading advantage from 10-bit, but I was just wondering what you thought. Yeah, I don't think it matters much if you're looking at the footage itself. I mean, I love the Sony footage, just as long as you expose it correctly. I adore the footage that's coming out of the camera. You just can't push it, and that's the problem with it. You know, as soon as you push any Sony footage, the skies start to have banding, things like that, you know. So that's the area where 10-bit is so much prettier, or so much better, I should say. Ali saying hi. Tony said hi. No thumbs down tonight. What a miracle. No, none yet, but there will be. You know, it cracked me up. Yesterday when I did this unboxing, I was that excited about it, and I got thumbs down for that. And I thought, Oh my God, these people are just haters. They crack me up. I think the funny thing about it, the whole thumbs down is, they're probably subscribed to me and they just do it deliberately because they're jealous or they're just haters and just, that sort of thing. And they're just out there. Like I said, you wouldn't believe the comments that I get from these people. And have to delete them usually because they're just... I'd hate to be a young... For me, I rub it off and I'm old enough that it doesn't bother me. But for young people that are in the industry, it must really hurt them. Thank you so much. Who was that? Oh, Manny, thank you so much. He's given me $20. Thanks for all the hard work, David, and keeping us updated with the latest news. Thank you so much, Manny. Really appreciate that. They are the meanest people on earth. You know what? And I can tell you something. I have never downvoted a video in my life. And that is the dead set truth. You know why? Because if I don't like something, I'll stop watching it and go on to something else that I like. These people are losers. They really are losers. And I feel sorry for up-and-coming YouTubers, new photographers that are trying to get there. And they could devastate those sort of people. And, it's awful. I think YouTube should get rid of the thumbs down. I really do. Because it doesn't mean anything. It's useless because it doesn't mean why they're giving the thumbs down. And like I said, sometimes I'm getting a thumbs down within 10 seconds of my video going up. So there's no way they could have watched that video. And like I said, they're just haters, and they probably should get rid of it. I think it's a bit of a flawed system. Michael said, I've read that before. Unbox says, I have a 10-bit monitor and can tell the difference in picture quality looking at 10-bit footage. Yeah, you may if you look at the monitor, but remember, I'm not dealing with people that are even looking at that side of thing. I'm delivering to weddings, stuff like that, doing stuff for YouTube. So 10-bit for me really is not, it's useless in the fact that no one is going to be able to see that when they look online, and my wedding brides aren't going to be able to see it and stuff like that. So for me personally, it's not worthwhile. It's also not worthwhile the storage requirements that I've got to use to get that 10-bit footage. So, but remember, I'm not a full-time videographer. If you're a full-time videographer, I can totally understand it because you may want to push that and you might want to work in log more than what I do. I don't use log, I use the standard profile. So, that's the way that works. So for me personally, I don't need it. But if you do need it, well then obviously you need 10-bit. Don't get too ed up on it though if you're not a full-on videographer. Whoa, I just got another donation. Also, $24.99. Screw the haters. Thanks for keeping us updated. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Manny. Thanks also. I really appreciate that. Manny would get them as well. Look, they're unbelievable. They really are. But like I said, we're old enough that we don't worry about it. I feel sorry for the younger people out there. I really do. Where else were we up to? I want to keep going because we've got so much to talk about today. Altric said, I hate to bug up, but I'm still waiting for that video on shooting video. Yeah, I know. I must get around to it, Altric. There's not really much to it. If you're talking about the A9, there's not really much to it at all. I'm just using standard profiles on everything, Altric. It's so simple. So standard, if I'm dealing on a gimbal, I use center focus. That's what that's on. And then everything is totally standard. It is so easy to do on the Sony system because it's ridiculous. No picture profiles, nothing. So it's really easy. Gilbert said, I'm hoping the June 5th announcement is a Sony 35 1.8. I'm going to talk about that next, I think. Or the story after. Hi, David. I just updated the Sony A7 III firmware to update 3.01. It's great news. I'm glad it worked for you. James says, I'm waiting for the G Master 50 1.2. Is that a dream? They may do a 1.2 lens eventually. I mean, it has to happen. Sony have said that they want to do one. We're just waiting to see what lens that will be. The other thing too is I think it's only a matter of time before Sony release a new G Master 85. Having a look at how this works, the 135mm, I think that Sony possibly now need to give a version 2 of the 85mm, and I think that's probably what's going to happen, that they'll release a version 2 that has the same motors, because unfortunately the the Sony 85. Well, Manny tested that. If you watch Manny's video when he did the test of this, the 135 and the G Master, he showed how slow the G Master was at focusing. So I think you're going to find there's going to be new lenses that come out. Guys, I've got to run to the door. It's a delivery. Bear with me. Be back in 1 second. Talk amongst each other. Oh dear. Sorry guys. My studio's in the, well, it's built at the back of the house, so it's separate to the house, so I have to run right to the front door. Let me keep going down. So Raymond says, does the camera stabilization ever work against the Moser, or do they complement each other? I've never had to turn the stabilization off, Raymond, so I've never had to worry about that. Jim says, and in the house, Michael is saying there. Let me keep scrolling. What Langston says, now I actually like my Rowan S. The Rowans are good too. I looked at that as well. Because I already had the Moser Aircross, I decided to keep down the Moser way. I just adore that gimbal. Like I said, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I've paid for those out of my own money. The Moser Air 2 is the best gimbal I've ever used. The motors are incredible. Let me just quickly scroll down. Russell said, is the assumption that the Sony body price drop is a precursor to a new body? I don't think so, no. I think they're probably just doing this because there's other cameras have been released out there. That's what I think anyway. Michael said, Jim, Penn, drinks on me, you, and David, get ready. What does that mean? Hoping that, Manny, we'll have to do a shoot too, mate. If you're still here, we'll have to do a shoot when we're in Vegas for WPPI. That's if you're going. I'd love to have a shoot with you. Let me just keep going down, because like I said, I've got lots to keep going through. Everyone's talking about the package was cash on delivery. I love it. I think it's a tripod that I've got in for a review. It's because it's a massive box. So it took me 2 minutes to carry it down into the thing. DeBrown says, that's Langston said, I like it now versus release because they lied and didn't have Sony compatibility. What's that talking about? I'm not sure. Anyway, let's go to the next story, guys. What's the time? 42 minutes, because I want to go on to this new Sony lenses. 42:10. 15. So let me go back here. Yeah, if I don't get the deliveries like now, they go to the post office and then it's a pain in the backside. So I had to run through there. All right, SR4 actually, so it's not an SR5. I thought it was an SR5. Sony are saying that, or the Sony Alpha rumors are saying that there's going to be an announcement on June the 5th and 6th. What they're saying here is that it's going to be a new lens, and that's what they're saying. No cameras, they're predicting are going to be released, but they're saying that it's going to be a new wildlife lens, which also, I suppose, could be used for the Olympics as well. They're talking here about a 500 or 600 f4 lens, or a 200 to 600 FE lens, which is probably going to be that 5.6 variable aperture. I think that's probably is what's going to happen here. It doesn't look like they're going to be dropping a new camera. I know a lot of people also are waiting on that 35 f1.8 because they need a cheaper version of that, but that hasn't been mentioned here, so I'm not sure whether that's going to be announced or not. It probably will come. I think Sony need to do something like the 85 1.8. They need to do that in the 35 as well because they need a cheap version of that lens to come out. So it probably is going to happen, but it looks like at the moment they're going to concentrate solely on these longer lenses. And that makes complete sense to me because if you think about it, the only thing that Sony misses now in the lineup, well, really, there's a couple of things they miss. They miss a really wide-angle prime, and they miss something in the very long range, you know, that 500 to 600 mil area. So I think that may be what we see next. Like I said, before we were talking about other things, before I ran out to get that delivery, I would not be surprised if they fairly soon upgrade the G Master lenses that are out there, like the 85, definitely needs a version 2. And I say that because, like I said, once you've used this, and the people that have used this know what I'm talking about, the focus on this is nuts. It really, for the size of glass and everything that this is moving around, it is nuts. And they really need to now do that for their other lenses that are out there, like the 85. We probably will also see a 105 as well. That will be sort of to compete with that Sigma 105, which I think could be an amazing lens. If they do that like they've done with the 135, that would also be a great lens as well. So I think we're going to see version 2s of the G Master lenses. But like I said, I think the next lens that's going to be announced is going to be a long one. And that seems to be what Sony Alpha rumors are saying there as well. So that's what that story's about. So I'll come back to the chat in a minute. We're already 45 minutes, so I'm going to keep going at this stage. So let's go to the next story before I open up the chat again. I'm going to talk about the Tamron. What are we, 45? 45, 30. So this story is that there's now been a review put out about this. It looks so similar to that, doesn't it? I mean, if you look at it, it is that close to how the Tamron lens looks. So they've kept the design basically exactly the same, which is a good thing, I think. And I spoke about this the other day, that this lens has held up fantastic for the amount of use that I've given it. It really has been outstanding how the lens has held up. So even though they say the materials may not be as good as what the Sony lenses are, it still almost looks as good as the day I bought it. It really does. And, you know, and I've been pretty rough with what how I use it. I haven't protected it or anything like that, and it's outstanding. The two lenses that really are outstanding for me like that are that one and also the Batis, which is not here. The Batis also still looks almost like new as well. Incredible quality or materials that they finish around the outside of those lenses. But there is testing starting to come. I still haven't heard from Tamron Australia yet when I can get a version of this. Like I said, it was apparently it's going to be announced for pre-ordering around July, and I think it's going to be delivered around September. So we're still in for a bit of a wait to get this lens. And my suggestion to you definitely is, if you want this lens, you should pre-order it, because it's going to be like the last Tamron lens. And if you don't pre-order it, you're going to be waiting 12 months to get it. So it's certainly worthwhile. Hopefully Tamron will contact me like they did with the 28 to 75. They're saying it has a tight zoom ring. Lens hood is made of plastic. Well, same as the other one. Autofocus works very quick. And that doesn't surprise me because the Tamron is as quick for me as using native glass. The lens is sharp, even wide open. Now, it's saying there is some wavy distortion at 17mm and pincushion distortion at 28, but it's easy to correct. Once Lightroom has the lens, the profile for that, it will probably automatically correct anyway. Some vignetting at 17mm, that doesn't bother me at all. So I'm looking forward to having a go at this lens too, but you know, it's starting now to be showed in review, so hopefully we won't be waiting too long. Let me go to the next story, and we're just going to open up a Q&A, I think. Oh, actually, no, I'll do it now while we're here. Let me bring back to here. So let's come back. Where were we? KFC. Someone said I ran to the door to get KFC. That was Stuart. I love it. Hero says, wow, Federer Nation used a 400 2.8 for portraits. That should be interesting. Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous using it for portraits. James said that's 82 of us and 18 likes. Hits. David said, good to see you, I'm De Brown. It seems a big delivery. Yeah, it's a tripod. A company has contacted me. I did a review for a slider a while ago, which was an electronic slider, which is really good. I mean, really good, and it's cheap. The same company contacted me to see if I wanted to do a review of a tripod that they've got, and it looks like a Profoto one. So I thought, yeah, why not? Look, I'll review it, and I'm probably going to give it away to someone local that needs one. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do. Because I don't need it because I've already got multiple quite expensive tripods. But for what this is, it looks like it's a really good quality video type tripod. So I thought, yes, look, I'll review it. So it's been sent to me. I haven't had to pay for it. But I think I'm going to donate it or something to someone that needs it. So, yeah. So if you do know a struggling videographer and you're from like Melbourne area, you know, someone that's needy, let me know because I'd love to donate it to a needy. I don't want to sell it because that's not what it's about for me. I think it's worth about $400 US or something, $300, $400. I can't remember. Yeah, I'd like to donate it to someone. So I'm looking forward to reviewing it anyway for that purpose alone. What else have we got through here? How much is this 200 to 600 will cost? Well, who knows? I mean, it's going to be interesting, but I'm dying to try the Sigma 150 to 600. I really do want to try that because, look, I don't really photograph birds in trees and stuff like that, you know, but I'd love to have a go at it because we do have such gorgeous, colourful parrots and stuff like that here and kookaburras and everything else. And I'd love to try a long lens to see if I can photograph them. So I'd like to try that. So a 200 to 600 would be pretty cool as well. Oreo's in here too. How are you loving your A9, Oreo? Oreo just joined the A9 club as well. I literally just ordered the 100 to 400 for wildlife yesterday. I'll see about selling it depending on the price of these new releases. But you might find that 100 to 400 if you can get you can also get the adapter, don't forget, James. So I'd wait. That's a fantastic lens, a 100 to 400. Just wait to see first the quality that you'll get from those other lenses. Your 100 to 400 may be better. Brett said Sony needs to make a 16 or a 14 1.4 prime. Yeah, I agree with you, Brett, and I think that's something that they probably will do down the track. They do need something that's in the wide angle thing at the moment because you can only get the 16 G Master. I'd love to, say, get a 14 1.4 wide angle lens that I could occasionally just grab out when I'm working in very, very tight areas. I use the 16 to 35. The image that I shot, now, just the F4 version, let me just show you. Let me just move this out of the way for a second. You can get some really beautiful shots, though, with the 16 to 35 F4 as well. This image here is taken with the 16 to 35. So that shows you what you can get. Now, that's the F4 version, and that's at 16mm. So a 16mm or a 14mm would really interest me for when I'm doing this type of shot. I'm standing on a chair. photographing the bride like you see here. And I would adore to have a lens that could do that and have faster glass, because I had to up the ISO here. This was lit, believe it or not, this was lit with a Profoto A1X on continuous lighting with the dome diffuser on it. How beautiful is it? I was surprised how well it worked. So I would love for Sony to bring out a wide angle lens that, you know, if it was a 1.4, I may use it at 1.8. Like this was f4, but I'd love to say shoot this a little bit more shallow and have less ISO on the image. But, you know, don't believe you can't use a wide angle lens for portraits, and that's what I'm trying to say here. You really can, and you can get beautiful work from a wide angle lens. You just have to be careful that you don't put them near the outside edges, because they start to distort. And there's ways around that. I should do a video and talk about that, how you can get around that distortion by how you lean them and things like that. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that, because I really do often use my 16 to 35. Let me come back to here. So yeah, I think there's a definite need. I agree with you, Brett. There's a definite need for a 16 or a 14 millimeter G Master. That would be fantastic. Where were we? Paul said if the 200 to 600 was priced like the 100, 400, I'd be the first customer. Stuart said, Manny, please review the Lenny Kravitz Leica M monochrome drifter. Manny's doing some good reviews lately, because he's now starting to review other gear, which is really interesting. He's now reviewing the Canon lenses, I've noticed. Michael says, I'm with you with that 14 GM, would be so nice. I hope there is no 70 to 200. There will be a version 2 of that too, I think. Like I said, there's a number of lenses that are fairly old now that probably could do with a refresh. The 70 to 200 G Master is one of them. That could have the same focus motors as what the 135's got. The 85 1.4, I think, could be due for a refresh as well. And the 35 1.4 as well, you know, could be due for one. Casper said, the 85G Master is super fast on the A9. It is fast, Casper, but it's not as fast as the 85 1.8. Hero says, return it, James. I'm sure there's a return window. That was that lens. Let me scroll down. Tasm said, David, I tried the Metabones with the 150 to 600 Tamron for bird's life, but the autofocus was horrible. I'm thinking trying the MC11. Yeah, I've heard the MC11 is much better, Tasm. That's the way you've got to go, I think, is to use the MC11. Wow, lucky person to get the tripod. Altrix said, yeah, I want it to be a needy person, though, someone that really, you know, needs it. Alex said, do you still use the Roto Neolite? I've got them. Yes, I've got 3 of them. I don't use them that often, though. I prefer the ice lights. And now, to be completely honest with you, I'm using the Profoto B10 more than anything now. Just because that continuous light is so controllable. I'm using that more than anything, even more than the ice lights. I still use the ice lights, but I haven't used my Neos for ages. They're just sitting in the storeroom, actually. Sam said, David, recently started following your channel. Love it. Good to see. Thank you so much, Sam. Don't tell me that, David. What's that? What was that, Fruple? I don't know what you were saying. Oh, not the 70 to 200. I think there will be. Look, all of these things, if you look at Canon, if you look at Nikon, they've all done version 2s of these lenses. Tamron as well. It's going to happen. You know, it has to happen. How did you know that about the G Master? Because I've used it, Casper. I've tried it in the store a number of times. Yeah, I often go to the camera store and they're always throwing lens at me to try and stuff like that. So let's go to the next story. What are we on time, which is 56. 56:45. Oh, just let me push that back. 57 actually. 57:00. All right, just wanted to show this because I noticed this came up this morning, and I don't know how reliable this is going to be or whatever. Yongnuo has got this new adapter, which is less than $100. I think it's $99 or something. It's the cheapest AF EF to Sony E autofocus lens adapter. Now, like I said, there's no talk yet about quality or how well this works. We have to wait for reviews to see how it goes. Excuse me a minute. It says it's quietly launched a new autofocus Canon EF to Sony E-lens adapter. It's called the EF-E2. It's a metal adapter and it preserves both autofocus and image stabilization functionality. It's cool. Very interesting if how it's done that. That's the first one. The MC11 doesn't do that, does it? And I don't think the Metabones does either. Is that correct? Let me know in the chat. I don't think any of them can put through the stabilization. Let me know. I don't think they can, so that's interesting. Built-in adapter for USB port, so you can see that through here. The focusing system switch, so it's got this focusing manual auto there as well. Looks really nice. It'll just be interesting to see how this performs. It even has an FM button that you're going to be able to program eventually, I believe. It's got gold-plated contacts, quarter-inch screw on it as well if you wanted to mount it to a stand or something like that, or put, a adapter or something on there. It's also got a lens locking latch too. So it looks pretty good. It's $100 over on Amazon at the moment. Is it released though, or is it just a pre... Yeah, it doesn't say. It just says, let me just open this up just to see. I'm just curious to know if it's available. It doesn't say that it's on pre-order. No, it just says buy now. No, it's in stock. So it is. It's available. Wow. Okay. I'd wait for a review, though, to see how this works before you jump down that line and purchase it, though. Because, look, there is a massive difference. If you compare this to, say, the Sigma MC11 is $249 and the Photodiox Pro Fusion is $100. So they're a similar price. But if it does work well with those features of having the stabilization and everything as well, interesting. As Jeff said, he just tried it. I tried it last week and everything was firmware updated. What's that, Doug? Is that this new adapter? I'm just curious to know. Anyway, so there you go. So that's that Yongnuo, which is, or Yongnuo, or I think it's Yongnuo. Let's go to the last story before we open up to... before we go up to the chat. So what's the time? 1:10. Ooh. 1 hour and 10 seconds. Okay, so this last story I want to show you is this. I noticed Tony Northrup did a discussion. All these links will be down below, so you can have a look at them. But I noticed Tony Northrup did a discussion about what he believed was the future of mounts. And it was quite interesting if you watch the video itself, because he's saying that he believes that the Sony E mount and the Fuji X mount are the only 100% future-proof mounts. And I think what he's talking about there is he's talking about growth, camera sales, things like that. So this is a really interesting comment that he's talking about here. The ones that he's saying, he still thinks that Canon EOS R and F mounts are also likely to be fine in the next few years from now. So that's Nikon F mount though. But the danger ones are the Canon GFX and the Nikon Z mounts are uncertain. And I think he's talking about due to sales. Because he's saying that while the reason behind a possible GFX failure is a slim amount of potential customers, in the case of a Nikon, he has a different argument. Nikon as a whole is not doing well. And the Nikon Z mount camera sales are very slow. And I keep seeing that all over the place, that the Nikon sales aren't doing very, very well at all. Oh, for God's sake. Guys, hang on a second. I think I've got another delivery. Sorry. I can show you this one. I'll show you that in a minute because it's interesting. Yeah, he's saying here that the Nikon sales are doomed. So it's really, I don't know, it's not a very nice thing to say. I'm a bit worried about Nikon when you look at that. But according to this article, you know, he's saying that the Sony E mount and Fuji X mounts are both going to be okay. And, you know, that's the thing. I think they probably are because they're selling so well. But I've got to catch my breath now. The EOS M, he says, is doomed, basically. Is that medium format? Micro Four Thirds. He's talking also about Micro Four Thirds is doomed. The L mount and Pentax mounts are also doomed. So, you know, it's not good news for that at all. But interesting. I'd love to know your conversation about that. I'd love you to put that down below to let me know what you think about all this. Do you think that's correct, what he's saying there? Like I said, I'll leave the links down below. And let me know what you think. So let me open this because I'll show you what this is. I've just got to get something. I've been really looking forward to getting this. This is from Small Rig. I think they're on pre-order. They just sent this to me, so I haven't paid for this. I would have paid for it though, but I was lucky that they just sent it to me to try out. I think they're available just about now, I think. How good are these little gadgets though? They're fantastic, aren't they? So what this is, if I can open this thing up, God, the Small Rig stuff always is packaged. I'll do a full review on this because I want to show you how this works. So what it is this. I discussed this the other day, actually. So this little adapter here, this is what goes around the Moza Air 2. So it fits around the top around there. And then I attach, I'll show you what it is, these two handles. I can't wait to try this because lugging around heavy cameras can be quite cumbersome. So then these two handles screw together. And like I said, I'll review it when I do it and show you how this works. There's an adapter that comes inside here and then it attaches onto it like that. And then you can move this handle around to wherever you like. And then the great part then is that the gimbal itself will have a second handle of it. So it looks sort of like, you know, the crane that you use. So you get that type of effect coming out of it, and then you can move this handle to wherever you want it to be, and so that you've got a second support to move it around. Now this is available for multiple cameras, multiple of these. I think it's available for the Rowan S, and it's also available for one of the crane as well, I think. But brilliant idea, beautiful handle that they've released. I got this the other day, and then I was waiting on this to come out because I had no way of attaching it. And I think it just basically screws, it just sits around this top bit around here. Now, the really good part about that is it also adds all of these, let me see if I can get it to focus. It also adds all of these mounting points that you can see around the whole thing. So you've got areas where you can mount extra things like microphones or whatever else you want to put on it. Made of metal. Fantastic. What a great system. I'm dying to try that out. That is such a good system. So that's what that was. That's why I was running to the front door, because I expected that to come today. And I didn't want to miss out on it, because then I'd miss out on it. I'd have to wait a day for it to get to the post office. So that's what that is. So that's available to a few things. So now let's open up Q&A. So 107 actually. 107. 00. All right, let's open up the Q&A. So sorry guys, I hate running out like that, but I had to do it because I hate missing out on stuff. It's such a pain here. If you miss out on your delivery, it goes to the post office, and then you can't pick it up till the next day. And then the queues are massive in the post office, particularly because tomorrow's Saturday. It'd be nuts, and I thought I had to run out. Doug said Small Rig is so cool. Look, it is. I know, it's amazing. It really is. Langston said he also got one of a different design there. I've shared that, Langston, as well. But I'll talk about that when I do the review. But this is a brilliant system, and it's made really nice. The other thing, too, you get a cold shoe there as well, so you can even put microphones into there and do stuff. So it's going to be great for when I'm doing stuff. Small rig is great. Now, the good part about Small Rig is, yes, they send me that stuff for nothing, but they never, ever tell me I have to give a positive review. And that's one great thing. All right, so let me come back to the chat. Oh, Tasm, thank you so much for that donation. I missed that before. I really appreciate that. Let me just come back to where we were. Where were we? I think here. David, that adapter will set your camera on fire. I love it. Oreo said, Yongnuo are notorious for being cloners, so they probably clone the MC11. They may, but I don't think the MC11 carries over the stabilization, Oreo. So that's something that they've done that's different. I'll have to see if someone else in the chat talks about that. Brett said, I think that I'm the only Sony advocate that don't own any G-Master lenses. That's quite funny, Brett. But you know what? You shoot beautiful landscapes and stuff, so the lenses you've obviously got are fine. Jim said, he's laughing out loud. Hero says, I want to try the Roto lights with the HSS flash. Altrix said, I don't either, Brett. It looks full featured. That's that thing, yeah. I tried it last week and everything was firmware updated. I'm not sure what that was. Frog said, David, the MC11 supports IBIS for unstabilized Canon lens. Oh, so it does support IBIS, does it? No. Yeah, but what this is saying, I believe, is that it... I know that because it uses the IBIS in the camera, but I think that Yongnuo, or whatever they're talking about, carries over the lens stabilization. That's the way I read that. Is that the way you guys are reading that or not? Doug said, no, the 150 to 6 G2, the MC11. Langston says he makes compelling case. Mike said the 85 GM slow compared to the 135. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely is. That's why I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if they update that lens. Frog said, lens IS stabilizers overpower IBIS. IBIS is off, so there's no interference. Interesting. Fruple says, I think that Tony is overthinking like he normally does. It may be clickbait. I mean, I don't know. Langston says, the big asterisk is we don't have Adorama or BH numbers. More toys, yes. I can't wait to try that out. I'm really excited about trying that out. More flowers for Kerry. I love it. That's what Oreo said. More flowers. I love it. A little late. Belize says the Pentax has arrived at its door. Was that you yesterday that was going on about Pentax? Langston says, don't you think professionals will skew towards those vendors over Amazon? I'm not sure what that means, Langston. Gas is the worst. Yep. Casper says all of the time. Carl says Nikon will survive, but only if they change the pronunciation to Nikon. Leslie's a bit late. Alicia here. Jim said Sony should put Nikon and Photomiak out of their misery by buying Nikon. Sony should put Nikon and Photomiak out of it. I love it, Jim. That's a crack up. Delta Dave says Pentax will be around a long time after their huge YouTube channel is a trash heap of history. What's that, Dave? Pentax will be around long after their haunty YouTube channel. Oh, you're talking about Tony and Chelsea. Okay, I get it. Belize says Tony's based a lot of his conversation pieces on Amazon sales. Oh, okay. So that's how he did some of his analysis. Chelsea did her analysis based on whatever, but what about the L-Mount Alliance? Do you have a used or reviewed item store? No. Brett said, I got my new, that's the remote commander last week, and that's my new toy. How are you liking it, Brett? Is it worth getting? Is it worth getting now that you can do everything through the phone? Just let me know. I'm just curious to know. Anyone looking for a remote commander, I can highly recommend it. Michael said, changing their name to Sony will guarantee Nikon's existence. Oh, you guys. You're lucky Photomeic's not in here. Shaku says, the L-Mount Alliance sounds like a sci-fi movie premiere. Barry's here. G'day, Barry. Alex said, I have a similar handle on my Zhiyun Weebill Lab gimbal from Small Rig. Really comfy to use. Yeah, and the great thing is, too, like I can just move this to wherever it needs to go. And the Moza Air, being a heavier gimbal, it's good to have that second support where, you can hold that and hold the gimbal as two separate things. Also, if you get down low as well, if you're doing really low work, that can be a lifesaver. I'll show you because I'll review it. I'm really excited about doing it. Shooting for 100 thumbs up. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. We've got 59 thumbs up now. We've got 2 down likes. It's probably from me from running out. Who gave me the down likes? Fruple says, how can you go wrong with the A7R3 and the 28-76? 2875, well, you can't. It works fantastic. James said, you said the A9 wouldn't get updated as it's the best in the class. Would this also not apply to the 70-200? No, because I think the thing is that the 70-200 may not potentially be its best. It's only the best in the Sony realm. The Canon 70-200 is probably equally as good as what the Sony 70-200 is. The Tamron, in effect, if you're looking at I think it's the G series, Tamron 70-200 is amazing. The 70-200 Nikon lens is amazing as well. Nothing can touch the A9 sensor though. There's nothing in there that's the same as that. The 70-200 could definitely do with better. I mean, look, it focuses really well, but it doesn't mean to say that they're not going to do a version 2 of that, like all the other lens manufacturers have. I still think there'll be version 2s of those lenses coming out. The other thing too is don't forget that it's good for Sony sales, because if they bring out version 2 of those lenses, you can bet that people will buy them. That already have them are going to go out and buy the new version. It's just the way we are. I mean, how many people would buy a new 85 G Master if that came out with the same autofocus as the 135? I can guarantee they'd sell bucket loads of them. Hi David, please recommend me the Tamron 28-75. It depends, or the Sony 24-105. Ronald, it depends on what you want from the lens. If you want it for travel alone, the 24-105 is probably better due to the reach that you're getting with that. As a wedding shooter where I deal with low light, things like that, the 28-75 is better for me because I often like to shoot at 2.8 and I shoot at 2.8 most of the day. So in that case, the 28-75 is a better lens for me for doing weddings and things like that. But if I was traveling and you only wanted to take one lens, the 24-105, even though it's an f4 lens, may be better for you due to the fact that you've got that reach. So it really depends on what you shoot. Personally, if I had to choose one of those, I'd get the Tamron, but that's me. What is the Sony go-to lens for event photography? Well, I use the 28-75. That's what I say is the perfect lens for event photography, is the 28-75. Honestly, that is by far the best lens I've used for that. It's light. I mean, it is incredibly small and light. Like, it's fantastic to lug around all day. Very, very sharp. Focus is fantastic. And the money you save by buying that instead of the G Master version, you can go out and buy another fast prime. But that's me. We all want different things. If you don't mind, I will inbox you about settings for shooting video. Yep, no worries, Altric. Michael said, Kerry is beyond flowers. You need diamonds now. I love it. Well, I didn't pay for these. They were sent to me by Small Rig. Oh. You know, the funny thing is, it's quite funny because as the YouTube channels got bigger, I start to get more stuff sent to me. And every time I get a delivery, Kerry's looking at me with a look that she gives me. It's quite funny. And you say, oh, look, no, I didn't have to pay for this. I'm doing this for a review. Like that light. This thing is fantastic. Guys, this light, honestly, this thing is unbelievable. I love this thing. I've been using it like crazy all around the house. Such a bloody good thing. Like, built like a tank. You know, it really is a stunning little system. I didn't pay for this though. Luckily I got it sent to me, but this is beautiful. I mean, it's a great piece of technology. Stunning. I'm getting another cheaper option delivered in the next... It might already be here because I have missed a delivery yesterday. So I'm going to have a look at a second version of something like this that's a little bit cheaper. So stay tuned for the review of that as well. I can't remember the name, but I'm a bit of a junkie if you talk about with lighting. I love anything to do with lighting. So whenever they offer me any lighting, I'll say, oh yes, please send it to me. David, isn't the L-Mount Alliance, it is L-Mount Alliance. It's not L-Mount Alliance. Oh, okay. It's just probably my pronunciation. Brett says, yes, it is. Don't have to touch the camera. No cable. Great for long exposure photography and video work. Yeah, I'll have to look at that adapter, Brett. Kelb says, hey, David, I'm looking for a second body for my wedding work. Currently have an A9, and I'm looking to either purchase a second A9 or an A7R3. Any recommendations? Well, if you're doing wedding work, and only wedding work and that type of thing, like events and stuff like that, you don't really need an A7R3. I'd probably get an A7 III. That's what I would recommend if you're doing events, because you'll save a bit of money. And look, the A7R3 is a beautiful camera, but I don't believe it's an event camera. Now, some of you are going to say, David, you're wrong, and that's fine. This is my opinion. I think the file sizes are too big for events. I think if you're dealing with weddings and stuff like that, the A9 is the ultimate, and I would buy 2 of them if I could afford it. If you can't afford it, I'd probably get the A7 III. But if you do like to do landscape, like I said, architecture and things like that as well, the A7R3 is a great camera. Eric says, Sony, Olympus, Nikon, Yongnuo will all merge and call themselves Sony. I love that, Eric. That's a classic. Michael said, David, I said we have 2 Sony haters that's infiltrated the channel. We must find out who they are. I know one of them, Photomiak, is online. That's because we've got 2 down likes. I love it. What a crack up. Where are they? I love it. I can't wait to meet you guys when I come to US in February. We're going to have such a good time, guys. Fair income. Jim said, QA, I want to bring only one body and lens to WPPI. Which A7 III or A7R3? Lens 16 to 35 or 28 to 75 or 55 1.8 or 85? Oh boy, Jim, that's a tough one. You know what? I think if I was going to Vegas, because I also want to go out and do shoots in the desert and stuff. If you're doing shoots like that where you want to do this amazing landscape and stuff with it all, you might be better with the A7R3 if you have it. I'm just going to bring probably my A9. I think that's probably what I'll do. That's how I think I'll be, and I'll bring a few lenses. I'm not sure which ones. I will probably bring my 24mm that I've just bought. I'll definitely be bringing the 135, and I may just bring the Tamron 28 to 75 and my A9. That's probably what I'll use, and I'll bring my A6 400 as my vlogging camera. That's probably what I'll bring. But if you have the A7R3 and you're going out to the lovely deserts to do shooting and stuff like that, and you have the A7R3, I probably might bring that. Where were we? Fruple says, how can we go wrong with the A7R and the 28 to 75? James said, you said the A9 wouldn't be up. Oh, I've read that already. Altric says, I've already read that. I must have scrolled up a bit. Fruple says, I want the best image quality and not just magnification. So should I get the 1.4 teleconverter or a 2 for my 70 to 200 GM? Eventually, in years to come, I will upgrade to a longer lens. I'll have to leave that open to the group to answer that for you, Fruple, because I haven't got those adapters. I don't have the G Master, so I've got no need for it. If anyone has the G Master, I know a few of you do that use the adapter. Is Fruple better to get the 1.4 teleconverter or the 2? Let us know in the chat, guys. That'd be great if you could. Aldrich says, I went for a second A9 because I wanted 2 of the same bodies for ease of use and menus. Yeah, I do get sometimes confused because I love the A9 so much with the controls on the top of the camera. I am always trying to find the extra controls. So I could certainly understand if you've got the money going for 2 A9s, that's for sure. Michael said, David gets a Sony 400 GM in the mail and tells Kerry, no, I didn't pay for it. They gave it to me. I think she'd find out when she checked the bank account though, Michael. I love it. James said, I never need a good wireless off-camera flash. I need a good wireless off-camera flash for weddings on a budget. Is a speed light with a soft box attached good enough for me, or am I better off with a proper light? So what would you recommend? Look, you're always better off with a decent speed light, like an AD200 probably would be better. I very rarely ever use speed lights on the camera now. The second you're dealing with going off camera, you're better off to get something that's a bit more powerful, like an AD200 or an AD400. That's probably what I would recommend. As soon as you start to use a normal speed light in a softbox, it loses most of its power, and you're going to have trouble overpowering someone in daylight. So you're better off to go for something a bit stronger. AD200 is probably fantastic. There's a new AD200 Pro, I think, just released from Godox. Casper said, which one is Ike? I love it. Jim said, David, we will need to bring a large empty camera bag to WPPI. Just buy. I know, that's what Kerry's worried about. She said to me the other day, you're going to buy stuff when you're there, aren't you? Oh, boy. I might have to leave my credit cards in the hotel. I've just got Apple Pay the other day for the first time here in Australia. It was in, my bank accepted it, so I can now probably use Apple Pay. Oh, yeah. Do they sell heaps at WPPI? I'm going to be in trouble, I reckon. I do think I'll be in trouble. New converter support the A7 III. I'm not sure what it supports. I would think so. Mavsen said, I think David will be justified in answering 80% of the year questions he gets with it. Depends. Get specific people. Oh, okay, you're saying be specific with the gear questions. Iron to Brown, will the A7 III have a recording time limits using an Atmos? No, it shouldn't, because the second you record out via HDMI, it gets rid of that time limit. So, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem, Iron to Brown. I'm certain, because I've connected mine and I've never had that happen. So, yeah, as long as you go external, the time limit's gone. Have you got any A7S3 news? No, not yet. Finally made a live show. Hello from Newfoundland, Canada. Serbius, welcome. Jim said, I asked the same question the other day. They recommend the 1.4 and shoot in Super 35. Oh, okay. The 1.4 is easy on ISO. Thanks, guys. Thanks for answering that. I had the 1.4 for my 300 Nikon VR, and at the time they told me to stay away from the 2. Also, Sammy Photography has said the 1.4 as well. We've been on another hour and a half, I'm going to get these people hating me again. Doug said 2 times will always hunt in low light. So that's answered that. So get the 1.4, not the 2. Jim said 71 thumbs up, 29 to go. Are we nearly there? We've still got those 2 down likes. What a crack up. MJ said, how's the 1.4 and the 70 to 200 GM? Mike said, finally found you live. Good to see you here, Mike. Mike said, don't miss Nelson, ghost town south of Las Vegas. Ooh, that sounds interesting, Mike. I'll start putting out for things that people think I should do, while I'm there. We're going to have 4 weeks. We're going to spend a bit of time in LA. Obviously, I want to go to Disneyland. I want to go to that new Star Wars thing. I'm going to go nuts in there. We're then going to go to Vegas for a week, and then we're going to drive up and go to San Francisco and Yosemite and stuff like that. So it should be a really good trip. So we're there for 4 weeks. So I should be able to meet a lot of you while we're there. Jim said, David will be gathering WPPI vendor trinkets and selling them on the street. Michael says, you can't really buy gear at WPPI, so you'll be fine. Oh, okay. Sometimes 1 or 2 vendors will sell stuff, but not most. Well, that's probably good. And that's about it. MJ said, thanks, Conrad. Casper said, show yourself, you Nikon loser. He's talking to Photomiac. And that's about it. All right, guys. I'm going to go and have some lunch and a coffee. I'm also going to go and have a play with this new small rig. I can't wait to play around with that. Stay tuned for some more reviews coming up. I'll leave all the links to the videos down below. Thanks for staying. Look, these are always really, really long shows, and you guys obviously love it too, like I do. The haters are just going to hate. Well, they don't have to watch it, do they? Apart from that, I'll see you all for the next video, guys. Have a great weekend. So that's good day from down under. Catch you guys.